Wednesday, August 19, 1987, a chilling event unfolded in Wiltshire, England. It's a story that shook a nation and led to significant changes in gun control laws. 27-year-old Michael Ryan drove his silver Vauxhall Astra GTE to Savernake Forest, about 7 miles west of his hometown of Hungerford. In his car, he had a Beretta pistol, an M1 carbine rifle, and a Type 56 semi-automatic rifle. Susan Godfrey and her 2 young children were enjoying a picnic in the forest. At around 12:30 p.m., Ryan approached the family. He ordered Susan put her children in her car, then forced her at gunpoint about 70 to 90 yards into the forest, where he shot her 13 times with the Beretta. A woman walking in the woods later found the children, who heartbreakingly told her a man in black killed my mummy. Ryan then left the forest and drove east on the A4. He stopped at the Golden Arrow petrol station near Froxfield at approximately 12:35 p.m. to fill his car and a petrol can. After another customer left, Ryan shot at the cashier from the forecourt using the M1 carbine. He went into the store and tried to shoot her at point-blank range, but his gun failed to fire due to either jamming or the magazine becoming loose. Frustrated, he left the petrol station driving east into Berkshire. The cashier immediately called 999, a call that was preceded by another emergency call from the previous customer who said they had witnessed an armed robbery. Thames Valley Police sent 2 patrol cars to the A4 to investigate. They were unaware of the murder in Savernake Forest, which Wiltshire police were already responding to, leading to 2 separate manhunts initially. After leaving Froxfield, Ryan returned to the home he shared with his mother in Southview, Hungerford. Arriving around 12:45 p.m., neighbors described him as looking upset. Soon after he entered his house, gunshots were heard. Ryan had shot his 2 family dogs. He then came out of the house with ammunition, survival equipment, and a flak jacket. When his car wouldn't start, he went back inside and set the living room on fire using the petrol he'd bought. He then headed east towards the school playing fields. Along the way, he shot and killed 2 of his neighbors, Roland and Sheila Mason. A 14-year-old girl who lived nearby heard the commotion and went to see what was happening. Ryan shot her 4 times. She survived after seeking first aid from her mother. A 77-year-old neighbor chastised Ryan for scaring everybody to death, but for reasons only known to Ryan he didn't harm her. Ryan then wounded Marjorie Jackson in her back. She called her friend George White for help, asking him to pick up her husband Ivor from work in Newbury. Just past the playing fields, Ryan walked along a footpath towards the town's common, where he shot and killed 51-year-old Kenneth Clements. Clements had been walking his dog with his family, who managed to escape unharmed. Around 12:50 p.m., police connected the Froxfield incident to the numerous calls coming from Hungerford and focused their attention on Southview. Ryan returned from the common, and the first police officers to arrive, who were unarmed, tried to close off both ends of the road to contain him. When Ryan saw the police, he shot PC Roger Brereton in the chest, who then crashed his patrol car into a telegraph pole. Ryan walked up to the car and shot and killed him while he was using his radio to report an active shooter. Still on Southview, Ryan then shot at a mother and daughter who had just turned onto the lane in their Volvo. Both were hit, but the mother managed to reverse the car out of the road. Ryan then fired at the 2-person crew of an ambulance responding to 999 calls. Both escaped with minor injuries. After this, 2 of Brereton's colleagues, securing the east end of Southview, encountered Kenneth Clements's son, who told them the shooter had continued west. When they went to investigate, Ryan shot at them. One took shelter in a house, and the other, with Clemence's son, drove across the common to safety. At 1:12 p.m., the officer radioed for support from Thames Valley Police's Tactical Firearms Unit, having seen the weapons Ryan was using. The TFU was on a training exercise about 40 miles from Hungerford and wouldn't have all its members present until 2:20 p.m. The officer, PC Jeremy Wood, set up a makeshift command post on the common, about 500 yards from Southview. Ryan then shot at George White, who was returning from Newbury with Ivor Jackson. White was driving his Toyota into Southview when Ryan shot him, killing him instantly. Jackson sustained severe injuries but feigned death and was therefore ignored. Ryan then walked to the junction of Southview and Fairview Road, where he shot and killed 84-year-old Abdul Khan, who was tending his garden and suffered from hearing problems, so may not have been aware of the commotion. After firing at and injuring a pedestrian on Fairview Road, Ryan headed back towards the common. One of the police officers made another 999 call, but by this point the telephone network was overwhelmed. Back on Southview, Ryan's mother Dorothy, who had been out shopping, returned in her car to see Michael armed. She shouted for him to stop, and in response he shot her 4 times, twice at point-blank range. He then headed back towards the common. A resident of a parallel street shouted at Ryan to kindly stop that racket. He responded by shooting her in the groin. At 1:18 p.m., PC Wood was joined by 2 armed police officers at the makeshift command post. 2 minutes later, they saw Ryan at the War Memorial Recreation Grounds. Ryan shot and killed 26-year-old Francis Butler. At this point, Ryan discarded the carbine, which he had not used as it had been inoperable since the shooting in Froxfield. He also temporarily discarded the Type 56, possibly due to spent ammunition. All the subsequent murders were committed with the Beretta. On reaching Bullpit Lane, Ryan then shot and killed taxi driver Marcus Barnard, who was in his car. Ryan then headed north on Priory Avenue, where he shot and injured the occupant of a parked van. By this time, police had set up road diversions, and some of Ryan's victims were drivers affected by these route changes. Douglas and Kathleen Wainwright, visiting their son on Priory Avenue, were diverted to approach from the south, where Ryan was. About 100 yards from their destination, Ryan shot Douglas dead and injured Kathleen before non-fatally shooting at 2 other drivers. Standing near Priory Avenue's junction with Tarrants Hill, Ryan shot at a van, killing Eric Vardy. At 1:30 p.m., Ryan went via Orchard Park close to Priory Road, shooting at houses as he passed them. He then shot at a passing car on Priory Road and fatally injured the driver, 22-year-old Sandra Hill. After shooting Sandra, Ryan forced his way into a house further down Priory Road and shot the occupants, 66-year-old Victor Gibbs and his 62-year-old wife Myrtle. Victor was killed instantly, trying to protect his wife, who was wheelchair-bound. Myrtle was to die 2 days later in the hospital. After leaving the Gibbs home, Ryan shot at houses opposite and injured the occupants. He then continued south on Priory Road, where he shot once at a car driven by 34-year-old Ian Plale, who was fatally struck in the neck. His wife and their 2 children escaped injury. Ian died 2 days later. At 1:45 p.m., the police helicopter arrived and broadcast warnings to the public. While they issued their warning, Ryan shot and injured a male outside a property on Priory Road. Ryan next showed up in the direction of John O'Gaunt School, which was closed for summer vacation. The school caretaker indicated that he had observed a man go into one of the buildings at the school at 1:52 p.m. The tactical firearms unit began to occupy gardens and homes in the vicinity before cordoning off the school around 4 p.m. At 4:40 p.m., they heard gunshots near the school, and officers were dispatched to the scene. At least one additional shot from a school building was heard at 5:15 p.m. These might have been aimed at the police and press helicopters. The whereabouts of Ryan after the 1:45 p.m. shooting were unknown, but around 5:26 p.m. police first spotted him at the school after he had dropped his Type 56 out of a third-floor window. After Ryan had been subdued, firefighters and paramedics were able to access the previously cordoned-off areas of the town, such as the fire in Southview, which had destroyed and burned 4 houses, including the Ryans. Ryan fired at police and helicopters flying over the school. He began talking to a TFU sergeant, informing them of his career and bullets, and claiming to possess a grenade as well. He stated he would not exit the school building until he was advised about his mother's condition by police and remarked that Hungerford must be a bit of a mess. The sergeant told Ryan that he knew him when Ryan claimed his mother's death was a mistake. Ryan allegedly responded, "How can you understand? I wish I had stayed in bed." Then he shouted, "It's funny. I killed all those people, but I haven't the guts to blow my own brains out." At 6:52 p.m., after several minutes quiet, a gunshot was heard from the school building, and Ryan stopped responding to police. Lacking knowledge of the extent of Ryan's arsenal and risking booby traps or other perpetrators, the police maintained their positions and laid out a strategy to sweep the building. At 8:10 p.m., Firearms police entered one of the rooms that had been barricaded to find Ryan killed by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Later, the shootings were turned into a high-profile incident. Much of the town was cordoned off by Thames Valley Police to retain evidence and keep the press out. A CID center was set up, and they conducted a sweep search of the town, finding 78 bullet holes in 15 vehicles. AutoIndex, the force's computer system for recording and tracking vehicles, was used in investigations. The Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, had visited Hungerford the day after the massacre. She stated that if gun control legislation need to be made more stringent to stop more occurrences like this, of course, that will be given consideration. Funerals for the victims took place in the weeks following the disaster. PC Roger Brereton's funeral was attended by Home Secretary Douglas Hurd. Dorothy Ryan was cremated in Calney, Wiltshire. Michael Ryan was cremated at Reading Crematorium, and his ashes location was known to only one family member. An inquest into the murders concluded on September 29. West Berkshire coroner Charles Hoyle endorsed the public demand for swift police action and also the guarantee of an unarmed police. The jury recommended that semi-automatic weapons should not generally be available, and a person should not be allowed to hold an unlimited amount of arms and ammunition. Hurd ordered Thames Valley Police Chief Constable Colin Smith to prepare a report on the massacre. The Hungerford report found that at the time of the massacre, the town, which was typically policed by 2 sergeants and 12 patrol constables, was being policed by 1 sergeant, 2 patrol constables, and 1 station duty officer. It said such staffing constraints could certainly have become a relevant factor had Ryan not been traced and contained rapidly. Internal and public communication were criticized. Phone exchanges could not handle the numbers of 999 calls. The Newbury Exchange, which would expect to handle 300,000 calls in a day, had an increase to 800,000 on August 19. Some of the statements given by witnesses were severely delayed, so old or redundant information was passed to emergency services. Public phone network and emergency services lines were clogged. Subsequently, British Telecom made efforts to ease pressure on the telecommunication network during that evening, freeing up communications for use by the police. The force also used 13 mobile phones. Similarly, as the landline network was shut down for public usage, Racal shut off public usage of the cellular network so that police mobile phones would work. The report stated that although the police force helicopter was being repaired and came in late at 1:45 p.m., it is probable that its arrival prompted Ryan to seek refuge in the school. Smith attested to helicopters, which were mostly from the media, interrupting operations, distracting the police pilot while making ground units deaf to radio communications. As regards Ryan's arsenal, the report found that his arsenal of firearms was lawfully licensed. Smith reached the conclusion that the public will demand that this terrible incident should serve as a catalyst for change in both law and administrative processes regarding gun licensing, and that neither proper sporting nor recreational interests would be harmed or substantially undermined by prohibiting semi-automatic firearms from sale outright. This led to the Firearms Amendment Act 1988, outlawing the possession of semi-automatic centerfire rifles and restricting the use of shotguns of more than 3-shot capacity. An amnesty mounted after the act had been passed yielded 48,000 firearms. P.C. Brereton was posthumously awarded the Queen's Commendation for brave conduct in June 1988. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.